In this video, we'll demonstrate how to change some common vPad properties, both directly on the vPad or emulator, and remotely through the UniPrint Management Console. To start, we'll re-enable the Settings button on the emulator through the UniPrint Management Console. Then we'll change the vPad interface language, the default homepage, and the sound on the vPad, before returning to the UniPrint Management Console to change them back again to the original settings. We'll go through some of the functional differences between the vPad device and the emulator, since not all settings and features apply to both. Since multi-factor authentication is popular, we'll go through some properties that are related to authentication tokens, such as smart cards and key fobs. And finally, we'll quickly go through the properties that need to be set in order to limit which printers a user has access to on the vPad device, and how to implement print stream compression. You can see the last two features in action on Chris's Techie Tips videos, which are also available through this website. In our last tutorial, we hit the Settings button to prevent users from playing with the vPad. So let's return to the bridge to enable the Settings button on the emulator. Right-click the vPad or emulator, and then select Properties. Click the Settings tab. These are all the settings available for the vPad. Let's re-enable the Settings button on the vPad. Click to select Show Settings on vPad Devices, and then select Yes. Click OK. Let's return to the vPad. Now that it's enabled, click Settings. If English is not your preferred language, you may want to change the interface language first. Then you can make changes to the vPad in the language in which you are most comfortable. Click Language. Let's select French or Français, and then click Apply. Click Yes to accept these changes. Some languages, such as French, use extended Latin characters and accents. To access these characters, tap or click and hold a letter to access them. Let's do this with the letter E. This allows the user to enter an E with an accent grave, accent aigu, circumflexe or tréma, diaresis or umlaut, if one appears in their username. Let's close this, and return to the UniPrint Management Console on the bridge. Most settings can be done remotely through the UniPrint Management Console. This allows administrators to centrally manage all of the vPad devices. Right-click the vPad or emulator, and then select Properties. Click the Settings tab. Click to select Language, and change it back to English. Click OK. Let's go back to the vPad to see the changes. Another setting you may want to change right away is the default homepage. The default homepage you see here is New Search. To change the default homepage, click Settings. Click Advanced, and then select Recent User List. Instead of being presented with a keypad to enter and therefore search for their username, users will be presented with a list of users that have recently searched for their names. Click Apply. Users would just have to tap or click on their username to be presented with a list of their print jobs. It's just a little less clicking on their part. Click Settings. Click Advanced. Click the User List tab. Click or tap plus or minus to increase or decrease the maximum number of usernames listed. And then click Apply. If your vPad is located close to where people are working, you may want to lower the volume or turn the sound off completely on the vPad so as not to disturb them. Click Settings. Click Sound. Right now, sound is disabled. To enable sound, select Audible Selection. To disable sound, clear Audible Selection. The volume can also be adjusted. Let's increase it 5 points. And then click Apply. Let's go back to the UniPrint Management Console to remotely change these settings back. Go to the bridge. With the vPad or emulator selected, click Properties. Click the Settings tab. Click to select Homepage, and then change it back to New Search. Scroll down. You can also change the number of users listed in the recently searched list. And you can turn sound on and off, and adjust the volume. Click OK. Let's go back to the vPad to check that the home page changed back to new search. Now let's discuss the difference between the emulator and the vPad device. Let's go back to the bridge. Right-click a vPad or emulator, and then select Properties. Click the Settings tab. It's important to note that the emulator is just a software-based imitation of the vPad device. So although some of these properties can be changed here, not all of them apply to the emulator. For example, any of the properties having to do with the screen, such as brightness, backlighting, and dimming, don't apply to the emulator, because if you have the emulator installed on a laptop, Windows will take care of these for you, and if you have it installed on a desktop, the monitor will handle screen properties. The same goes for screensaver properties. These can be set through Windows. Another setting that doesn't apply to the emulator is Server Connection Static IP property. A static IP address can only be assigned to an actual vPad device. For the emulator, a static IP address can be assigned through the Network and Sharing Center in Windows. And settings for sound and volume can also be managed through Windows. The spanning tree protocol also only applies to vPad devices. This setting is used to prevent broadcast radiation from occurring, resulting from a bridge loop created by connecting both of the vPad ports to your network. We recommend that one port be connected to your network and the other port be connected to a network printer. In fact, even the screen on the emulator for this setting is disabled. Setting a static IP address is also disabled on the emulator. Let's go back to the emulator. Click Settings. Click Screen. Although it's possible to change these settings, they don't actually have any effect on the emulator. The same goes for the screensaver settings. Click Cancel. Click Advanced. Click the Network tab. On the actual vPad device, this screen would look like this, and you would be able to set the static IP address for the vPad, as well as enable the spanning tree protocol. But since this is the emulator, this screen is disabled. Click Cancel. Now let's take a look at some properties that pertain to authentication tokens. These properties can only be accessed through the UniPrint Management Console. Let's go back to the bridge. SecurePrint allows for multi-factor authentication, and vPads can be purchased with built-in RFID, HID, or magnetic stripe readers. This means you don't have to purchase a new authentication system, and you can continue to use the already existing authentication tokens in your organization. In the previous video, we demonstrated how to import a list of users and their token IDs. Alternatively, you can always have your users self-register themselves at the vPad devices. Users only have to do this once for their token to be associated with their username. To allow this, set Allow User Self-Registration to Yes. By default, the vPad device is responsive to touch. However, if you want the vPad to only respond after a token is swiped or tapped, set Device Mode to Lockdown. This adds an extra layer of security. We'll leave it as normal. If you want all active print jobs to print with one card swipe, set Print All Jobs on Card Swipe to Yes. This eliminates one extra mouse click or tap since the user doesn't need to select a print job to print. These settings pertain to a particular vPad device, and there are more authentication token settings within default settings. Click Cancel. Click Default Settings. Another way to reduce the amount of clicks or taps for the user is to set Allow Password Bypass at the device to Yes. This way the user does not need to enter their password in order to retrieve their print jobs. Beside User Card Limit, you can also set the number of authentication tokens that can be associated with a user ID. Click Cancel. Now let's look at some more advanced tasks. You can have many printers associated with a vPad, but if you want to prevent a user from being able to select or print to a particular printer, you'll have to use the UniPrint Print Guard service. For a more detailed video on this, see Chris Hathaway's techie tip on restricting printer access on the vPad. But we'll show you what needs to be set. Click Start. Click Administrative Tools. Double-click Services. Locate the UniPrint Print Guard service and enable it. And then go back to the UniPrint Management Console. Click Default Settings. And then set Use Integrated Windows Printer Security to Yes. On the bridge, deny the user printer access by modifying the access control list for a set of gateway printers. The user will no longer see denied printers on the vPad, and will therefore not be able to select those printers through the vPad device. Click Cancel. It is also possible to compress data between a print server that is located in the data center and a remote printer. This can be achieved by setting up the UniPrint Transport Port Monitor. For a more detailed video on this, see Chris's techie tip on print stream compression with UniPrint Infinity, but we can show you where to set up the UniPrint Transport Port Monitor. Go to the print server. Open the control panel. Click Devices and Printers. Right-click a printer, and then select Printer Properties. Click the Ports tab. So instead of going through a standard TCP/IP port, we'll need to set up a new port. Click Add Port. Click to select UniPrint Transport Port Monitor. Click New Port. Enter the IP address of the vPad located at the remote office, and also enter the IP address of the remote printer. You can also adjust the level of compression. Print stream compression requires the vPad device itself, so this functionality is not available for those using the emulator. Click Cancel. Let's close everything up. Thank you for watching this short video. For more information on UniPrint Infinity, or to check out more videos such as Chris's techie tips, visit our website at www.uniprint.net. Or if you're testing UniPrint Infinity and require assistance, contact our friendly support staff at support@uniprint.net.